Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Lindsey, the pharmacist here, Wellness PharmD Consulting. And this week we are joined by a very special friend and guest here, Andrea Storo. She and I have known each other since I was in middle school, maybe younger. She was one of the swimmers I actually looked up to, broke her backstroke record. Yeah, forever.
You're right.
You told me I could do it when I was young, and I went for it. It was really, you were great. You've been a great part of my life. She adopted my favorite foster dog, PT, and just a genuine soul, and I love you for that. So why did I bring Andrea in here? Not just because she's awesome, because she's also a caretaker, and November is Caretaker Awareness Month. And although this isn't getting posted till December, I wanted to give her a platform to go over caretaking. It is such an important part of everyone's lives, and how you got there, your perspective, and we'll just let it roll. So Andrea, give your background?
Well, when I think about it, I've probably been a caregiver really my whole life in some capacity, because I think my mom had health issues when I was 10. So I started doing my own laundry and making my own lunches and things like that, and just helping her from time to time with different health issues. So looking back now, I say that everything I did over all of those years through high school and college and every experience really prepared me for what I'm doing today, where I am full-time living with my parents as a caregiver for my dad and my mom, but mostly my dad. In 2017, my dad, we were on a trip, a family trip, and my brother said, "Dad, pick up your foot. Dad, pick up your foot." And so after we got home, he went to the doctor and was diagnosed with foot drop. And one thing led to another, and hospital after hospital. We've been to the best places in like the Mayo and John Hopkins, and we've been everywhere over the years to find an answer, and nobody can give us an answer. And now he's full-time in a wheelchair and doesn't walk. And so he needs a lot of assistance. And so here I am. And that's like the brief history. So I don't know, without getting too personal, I guess, with his story, because I'm really big on
Privacy.
Trying to maintain his dignity and privacy. So those closest know a lot. But I try to maintain that for him because I just think that's really important. I share certain things on my story for family and friends, but I really do try to keep his dignity intact. So
it progressed, and you slowly became more and more involved in caretaking and watching the decline of your father from walking in 2017 to now 2021. He's a wheelchair. That probably takes an emotional toll and a physical toll. I mean, lifting a whole person. You have to be strong to lift a person. What was your perspective prior to becoming a full-time caretaker? You were kind of eased into it, like you said, at 10 years old and on.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's funny because in March of 2020, when the world went crazy, my dad and I were actually in Salt Lake City for therapy. And while we were there, my mom got sick and ended up in the hospital. And we left there and came home early, partly because of her, but also because we just had a weird feeling about the world and what was happening. And we wanted to get to home and not knowing what might happen. And so I got home and I said to myself and my dad and my mom, she just got out of the hospital the day we got home, I'm just going to stay for a night or two. I'll just be here for a night or two, help out with mom, and everything will be fine. And then I'll go back to my house. And that is not what happened. I have not lived full time in my house since March of 2020. Actually, February 28th of 2020 is the last time I lived in my house full time. I still have my house, but when I got home, things kind of were progressing with my mom at that time with her health. My dad was still using a walker / wheelchair at the time, and the world went.
Yeah.
And so then I stayed with them through all of that. And then they were also planning a move. So I was also packing up their house and going through, 38 years plus of living in Sheridan to, trying to downsize and whatnot. So doing all of that at the same time of being a caregiver and going through the craziest time in the world. They moved in June of 2020. And at that point, I remember standing in the garage at my parents' old house telling my brother, I don't know what this looks like. I have no idea.
Right.
I just know that now this isn't gonna work for them to be on their own. And so the next thing I knew, I was moving into their guest room in their new home with PT, his bed and his cage and the whole thing. And and as things just time wore on and progressed, it's now just second nature. I'm here 5 days a week because I'm still at a point where I sort of can leave for about 36 hours or so and go back to my house. Doesn't come without worry.
Right.
But I also know I need that time. So at the beginning, I didn't think it was going to be this. And at the beginning, when I realized probably in June of 2020 that this is what was going to be happening, said, I got it. It's okay. I got it. I got this. I can do this. And as time goes on and has gone on, I can still do it. But I would say it's fucking hard. Excuse the language.
No, speak your truth.
There are thousands of people in my position that people don't even realize that that's what they have going on. And I think as a caregiver, you are living a double life or a triple life, depending on your situation. And people have no idea what's actually going on. And so to that phase where, treat people a certain way because you never know what's going on behind their doors. It's a very true statement because there's just so many caregivers out there. And I feel really blessed to be in the situation I am in with my parents in a way that they've been successful over their lifespan and are in a position to continue to have a good life in their care. But it also includes me.
Right.
And not every caregiver or caree has the opportunity to be in a situation I feel like I'm in, where my parents set themselves up for success for their.
Some people have to put their most loved ones in the care of someone else because they aren't able to do it.
Yes.
Or
they quit their
they can't
jobs
afford
or
a sister. They quit their job and then it becomes like minimum income. You're still able to do work.
Mhm. Yep.
It's a very that whole dynamic in economics is how are we supporting our caregivers and our people in America that are not even technically disabled, but just need care. Healthcare is an epic failure. We can go on about that forever. So
that's a whole other call.
Yeah, we could have another Zoom call about that. With becoming the full-time caregiver, I got this, and now, is there there's probably a grieving process and mourning that old life. It's kind of a death of an old life. You have part of it there, birth of a new life. It's not the life you pictured.
Yeah. I never would have thought that going to Sheridan on a weekly basis for 36 hours or whatever would feel like a vacation. But it does, I go to my house and there's no demands there. The only demand there is, me taking PT for a walk whenever I want. There's no demands to get up and help anybody. And I don't say these things in a bad way because That's another part of caregiving. There's a lot of mixed emotions. You desire for one thing, but you don't want to desire for that because you know that it means something else. And so
You have
uh,
guilt.
you have lots of guilt, lots of conflicting thoughts and conflicting emotions. And I would say, when you asked me about this, I was thinking, well, what are like the top 10s? And one of those, which, we can talk about later, but is therapy, and in going through therapy and having a weekly appointment to talk about all these things or cry them out or whatever is so therapeutic and such an essential part of surviving and thriving the caregiving journey. And the other thing I would say also somewhat therapeutic aspect is joining caregiving groups, finding groups, whether it's on Facebook, and obviously with the world being as crazy as it is, in person is very difficult. So finding different groups that will support you, that have people going through the same thing you're going through, you feel less alone.
Yeah.
Being as a caregiver, you feel very isolated. And then you add in the craziness of the past 20 months. It's really isolating and really difficult because you're not just thinking about your safety, you're thinking about those that you're taking care of, and God forbid what would happen. And my biggest goal through the whole thing back to when it started was, keep my parents out of the hospital,
Right.
keep them out. I don't care what it is. Like, we're not going to the hospital if we can avoid the hospital now.
Right.
And so, that's just one of the things that I think is just so very important to be able to deal with everything. Because there's a lot of guilt and there's a lot of anticipatory grief. You're grieving everyday losses, things that you never would think a person would lose, and what that means, and how you watch a very strong person go to being very reliant on you, and knowing that you're it for that person. Just as before we got on the call, my dad needs help translating for people to understand him, and I am that person. I go with him everywhere and calls, and it's just really difficult for people to understand him. So not only do you have everything else, you're a person's voice, you're their legs, you're their everything. And it can be a lot. And I didn't realize that when it all started, that it would go that road, because at the time we were just dealing with the physical aspect, the walking,
Not
the
the
wheel.
not the neuroprogression. So you
Not
touched a little bit. The main reason, one of the main reasons I reached out to you is because I wanted to know how you stay well. What's your wellness plan because for other caregivers out there, therapy, right? Short vacations I've picked up on.
Yeah.
Mixed emotions, coping with those. Give us your top 10 or top 5 or.
Well, one of the things too, when we were talking about this, is that self-care, a lot of times people think self-care is related to going to a big spa or a luxury getaway. And when you're a caregiver, sometimes it just might be that you got a shower in that day. There are times where I'm like, when did I shower last?
Victory. Yeah, my hair is clean.
I'm like, wait, I showered and I washed my hair. Like, those are big wins sometimes when you're a caregiver. Maybe you took a little extra time and you did a face mask in the bathroom. You brushed your teeth. You watched a movie. Just kidding. I brush my teeth every day, but there are people I know that are caregivers, and that is sometimes it's a struggle, stopping for ice cream or whatever it is that you would treat yourself with that makes you feel, that brings sunshine, I guess, something like that. And I wouldn't say doing it in excess, but there are just days where you just need to pick me up. And if ice cream's your thing, then you stop and you get the ice cream, and then there's other days where we're going, I haven't eaten very well today. I'm gonna eat this apple,
Yeah.
and those are wins, those are self-care. Anything, going to the grocery store. I mean, nobody likes to go to the grocery store. But when you're a caregiver,
I do. I went yesterday by myself for the first time, probably since my kid was born. And I was like, this is awesome.
yeah, it's, I mean, and then to just spend a few minutes in the car afterwards, just sitting there
Yeah.
and just having,
Solace.
I mean, so self-care can be anything that you make it to be that makes you feel good or gives you a moment to breathe. But on the bigger scale, yes, there are a lot of things for health and keeping yourself healthy, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, because as a caregiver, you're emotionally drained, you're mentally drained because you're got all these things to keep track of. And if you're working, as I am as well, you're jumping, your mind is jumping from topic to topic, compartmentalizing tremendously, trying to keep everything straight. And then obviously you have physical. So for me, I'm lucky in the fact, similar to you, in that exercise plays a really big part of your life. And you've recognized it from ages ago, how beneficial it is for your natural endorphins and things to be released. So you can walk in to do something, or in my case, I work out in my guest room, like
Yeah.
in a little spot. And when I go to my home in Sheridan, I have a Peloton there. So I ride my Peloton. I think it was a lifesaver for the past 20 months. But when you're super stressed, you have a lot of anxiety, you're angry, all the emotions, that exercise, you can do it. And then the world is right again. You feel
Totally
calm.
agree.
You feel confident, you feel like you can conquer the world. It's, if there's one thing that I just always tell people, I preach it all the time. I'm like, just exercise, like, go for a walk,
A walk.
whatever, move your body,
Walk
because it's,
PT.
yeah. And I do that every morning, even in the wintertime when it gets cold, I
And
bundle
he's
up.
like, no, thanks, Mom. And you're like, we're going.
Pretty much, depending on the temperature, we might not go, or we might go shorter walks, but I do try to get out every morning, because just even breathing that cold air or watching the sunrise, those are also moments of self-care that I find just good for the soul. So exercise is just always been there for me, and it will continue to be there. And I make it a priority. I try to work out 7 times a week. If I miss 2 days or I miss 1 day, I got in 5 days. And
Right.
maybe 1 or 2 of those days is just a walk. Maybe it's nothing strenuous. Maybe it's just some yoga, whatever it is, but I move my body. And it's just, I wouldn't survive without exercise. I wouldn't. Totally would. You'd find me
Agreed.
curled up.
Crying in the fetal position. Yep.
Yeah, it's so, and then I would say, one of the big things that I've been working on and focused on, and you reminded me of it a few months ago, is napping, but sleep. I don't get a lot of sleep. I function on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Most of it's interrupted. Just a lot of noises at night. And so I've started about a year ago, maybe, I got an Oura ring to track my sleep, to see just what my sleep quality looked like.
Right.
Some days, like when it's super, super stressful, I'll take liquor, or, I listen to meditation every night before I go to bed. I wouldn't say I meditate per se, but I listen to it and I'm out. I don't know if I've ever fully listened to a meditation. I just fall asleep to it. And
It's okay. It's your meditation, Sterl. No
it's
one
my
else's.
meditation,
It's yours.
and it's what works for me. And so I've really tried to be focused on getting decent sleep, quality sleep, because you can get 7 hours of sleep, but if only 5 of it is really good quality, that's what matters, is the 5 hours of really good quality sleep versus 7 hours of awful
Yeah.
sleep.
Right.
Napping, if I get a chance to. So kind of all of that helps because you're forever exhausted as a caregiver.
Yeah, your adrenal fatigue is never ending. We've talked about that to
Your
extent.
body always in fight or flight mode. Go, go, go. If there's an emergency, go, go, go. So your body's just always ready to react and always stressed. So I've really tried to look at my sleep quality, and make sure that hopefully the sleep I am getting is good quality.
Oh, on that go, go, go topic, you are the go person. You take them to all their appointments. You keep track of all their medical history, all the medical records, everything, who you've seen, what you've done. And you constantly have to repeat the story because it's not very often that you have a medical provider that actually read the chart. And
Yeah.
managing that frustration, right? And or the office, like the lab is closed because everybody's short staffed, or sorry, the appointment's been moved back 2 hours, but it takes you an hour to get everyone ready into the car. So you're already there, and now you've got to sit and wait without any heads up, because of course there's no courtesy call. So I
Nope.
think there's another part of caregiving that is managing expectations, and you have to be organized. I mean, organized like crazy.
Yeah, sometimes so much so that
You're overwhelmed.
you're overwhelmed. When I first started, when my parents moved up here, they were scheduling different things and they were happening at all different. I'm like, no, wait, that doesn't work because we have to be here, or so pretty much after the first month, I create them a calendar. It's all color coordinated based off of what my dad has going on, what my mom has going on, and what I have going on. And then I update it, because things change. So I probably update it at least once or twice over the course of the month, and I give them a new calendar. I also send out all the invites on their phone. So they get all their appointment reminders on their phone if they choose. My dad's good at it. My mom's not so much. At her calendar. But this way, hopefully we have an idea of where we're going and we're not overbooking ourselves. It does happen sometimes. There are days where there's 4 things that are at the same time and I got to figure out how to get to all of them. And it is very stressful. But I've also just come to realize that
not everything has to happen at once.
I have to give myself grace in that either it's going to work or it's not going to work. But what doesn't usually work is if it's something for me, because my stuff can be rescheduled much easier than stuff for them. So as an example, I had a dentist appointment and I changed that appointment 3 times this year. I had to cancel every time because something else came up, and that's what you do. But it's an important thing too as a caregiver is you don't give up. Like, it's easy to say, screw it, I'm just not going to go. But your health is just as important as your parents or whoever you're caring for. And so if it took you 3 months to get it, then you got your appointment still,
Right.
So
I think that's a really good point, is you don't give up. Don't give up anything, on you or, on your situation or your parents or whoever you're taking care of, because there's a bond there. They rely on you just as much as you love them.
Yeah. There's a girl that I follow on Instagram. She's a caregiver for her mom who has dementia or Alzheimer's. I mean, they're
hand in hand.
Yeah, and she always refers to herself as a care partner because it's a partnership, versus like you're always giving, and I think it's a very valid term that she uses for her journey, and I think for any caregiver, because it's a give and take. Even though it's hard, I try to keep a mindset of being grateful and filled with gratitude, because the memories and the things that I will always have with my dad and the laughs and everything that we've endured, I'll have those forever. And I feel really blessed and lucky to be able to be on this journey, even though it's really hard. Because I think it's a great honor to be allowed to care for somebody and see them at their weakest moments. And it's a purpose that it may be your greatest purpose that you'll ever have in life, is to care for another individual. So,
Got me crying over here, Sterl.
so I mean, I think, that her concept of like a care partner, it's a give and take, and it's a journey. No matter who you're caring for, it's a journey between two people or three people, whatever. And yeah, you are a giver, but it's a partnership.
But
So
I
anyway,
don't know about you, but I know you've thought about it, and it's not a fun topic, but when you're no longer the care partner, you get to carry all those memories with you.
Yeah. The good and the bad.
If you don't have to give those up,
don't
give them up, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What advice? I mean, you've given us great advice: exercise, therapy, gratitude, grace, give something to yourself.
I think
organized.
Hydration, I think is important. I carry this big Yeti bottle with me all day, everywhere we go. I've almost left it at the hospital a couple times. But I think that's a huge piece of health. And I think, to my point at the beginning, it doesn't have to be something fancy, but along with exercise, something that I've always had as part of my self-care was massage. And that's something I do continue to carry over. And I think that's a great form of self-care, but that doesn't work for everybody. Some people don't like to be touched. So maybe, that's not for them. I also do acupuncture for stress, and that's good because my dad goes to acupuncture, so we kind of go together. And we see this, and so that's just something we, another memory that we'll have because of whatever happens along the way to the acupuncturist, and whatever happens there, and whatever those will all be memories that I'll have with my and I think two other things are really big for me for self-care is I wouldn't, as I said, it's very isolating being a caregiver, and definitely during the times that we're living in, but I'm also super blessed and grateful to have two the most amazing friends who get it, and they
they check on you.
If you can find those people, you don't let go. They are there for me every day. They're there for me every week. They don't demand a lot, but they're there, and they listen, and they get it. And so whether that's one person that you find, or two, or if you're lucky to have 10, hold on to those people, because they're so, so very, very important in your sanity and your self-care. I believe, love my parents as much as I do. Or maybe not as much as I do, but
darn close.
They'll do anything for me. They'll do anything for them because of me, and they'll do anything for me because of them. I don't know if that makes sense, but having people that get it. They just show up when they need to show up.
Your support group.
And they don't get what you're going through on a day-to-day basis per se, because they're not experiencing it. And so they don't pretend to understand, but they empathize. And I think that's a really important piece as a caregiver, because a lot of times as a caregiver, people are like, oh, I understand, or oh, I get it, but you're like, unless you're going through it, you really don't
get it.
You really don't. You don't know what it's like from start to finish in the day. And I also think I'm somebody who commits. I want to do everything. And when I commit, I want to give my 110%. And if I feel like I'm not doing that, then I start to feel really guilty and I feel really bad. And I think through this process, I really had to cut back on a lot of things and be very
realistic
with your time and what you're able to give, but also who you allow in. Because there'll be, yeah, because
and what's worth your time and energy.
Yes, I don't have a lot to give because I give it to the two most important people that are here, and that's that. So you take a pie and you cut it. There's not a lot left over for all the things that you want to do, not just for them but for yourself. You know, and I break it down when I go to appointments, and the people are like, well, just do this, and you're like, wait a second. If I get 4 to 5 hours of sleep out of a 24-hour day, and then it takes me, you know, I need to give attention to my dog, or I need to work out, that's X number more hours out of the day. Or it takes 20 minutes to get to the appointment and it's an hour appointment if they're on time, and then it's 20 minutes back, and you go through the cycle. You don't have a lot of time and you don't have a lot of energy. So you're I think give your energy to and what you give your energy to. And I hope that as things continue in my life, that's something I'll be able to carry on, but refine it for myself.
Right.
Whereas now you're doing it for somebody else. You know, I don't know if that makes sense.
I think that's an excellent lesson for everyone. Like boundaries, who's worth your energy and time, because how much wasted energy is spent on emails, for Christ's sake, in corporate America?
So much. And just people are draining, you know, people, and there's really great people. I'm not, but when you go through what you're going through as a caregiver, a lot of the mundane things that we get worked up over, you kind of just just laugh at them.
They're silly.
You're like, really? Do you want to know what I just did in the past 3 hours? Let me tell you,
right.
You know?
Right. Does it matter if the Christmas lights are half green and half red?
Yeah.
Like, no.
It doesn't matter. So I think you just, your focus shifts and you're more focused on maybe what's really important.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
Being, grateful. And I think there's also mixed emotions with that as a caregiver too, because you know you need rest, or you know you need to take time for yourself, or you know you need to do this, or you've got these demands for work, or you want to go see your friends, or you have all of these demands on you, and you don't want to miss out on anything with your care person, in this case my dad, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. And so you never want to miss out on anything. So you just try to do everything, which also is bad, but you also choose to say no to some things because this is more important, and it's a memory that you hope you'll have forever.
Right.
You know, so it's not an thing, and there's a lot of things, but I think the biggest thing is, you know, give yourself grace and find out what works for you, because every care situation is so different. You know, and some mornings I get up early and have me time, and some mornings I sleep in because I just need it. And that's okay, you know, and that's where you really have to listen to what you need, and also keep in mind of what you should do. Just going to sleep in every morning, or I'm going to eat the ice cream every day, or
not excessive, right? Like balance, everything is moderation and balance.
Everything in balance, you know? Yeah.
Well, Star, I think this was awesome. I think you gave us an insight into a world that maybe some people don't see. I know I haven't seen it besides through you, and I get the crust of the pie. I don't get any of the deep, deep, detailed fillings. And that's,
Yeah.
don't put your energy into me, please put it into
Oh,
you. It's where I want it.
yeah.
But
I
I
think it's,
think this is going to be great
I think you also
to
know as a
share.
parent, as a parent, you
Yeah,
give yourself. The
all
difference
day.
is you're seeing the growth. Whereas when you're caring for somebody who's sick or who is elderly or whatever the situation might be, you're not always going to see the growth. And that's where it's difficult and different, but it's still also very rewarding at the same time. And I just try to be like my dad. People say, "How's your dad?" And I say, "My dad is good." And they look at me because there's some people obviously who know, like they might think they know.
Right.
And, and you're like, "No, my dad is good. My dad is fundamentally the same person that you know. He's super positive. He loves
Yeah.
to smile, laugh still, and tell jokes, and is just that person that when he goes to the hairdresser, all the ladies in there light up and start laughing because the energy he brings. And so at the end of the day, my dad is good.
Yeah.
What I'm not going to share is what they don't see because they don't need to know that. What they need to know is that the person they're asking about is
It's
still the
good.
person they know him to be because he is still that person, you know?
Right. Just because someone needs a caretaker doesn't mean they're a different
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. They're
They're,
still a person.
they're
And I
still the
think
same
when
person.
you're sick or in a wheelchair or whatever, that can get lost, that they've somehow become a different person. They're still them.
They're
They're,
still them.
they're still them. And that's
Right.
what I'm here to do, is to help him continue to be him while also trying to take care of myself and be me to the best of my ability. So
Excellent. Ah, I just love it. I love all of it. I hope someone watches this and loves it and enjoys it as much as I have, letting you share your journey and your stories. And um, I just thank you, Andrea.
yeah,
I
thank you for
thank you for everything.
hopefully hopefully somebody gets something from it.
They better, because I did.